Cropping is one of those essential tools in Photoshop. And if you look at your Tools panel and count down to the 5th tool on the left, you'll see the Crop tool. Or I could just hit my letter C by itself for Crop on the keyboard, and that switches to the Crop tool. With the Crop tool active, you'll see corners, and when I mouse over each corner, I get a stretch icon. Or even the middle will stretch up and down. So if I wanted to take away part of the top of this image, I would pull down. On the right, I could pull in and to the left. Normally, I work from each corner. And in this shot, I'm going to keep an eye on the default rule of thirds. If you haven't heard of the rule of thirds, here's some words of wisdom that a photographer told me. If you ever look at your childhood photos, you'll notice almost everybody is centered, and everybody's squeezing to try to get in the shot or leaning back to try to get into the camera lens. A couple of things that will make your images more interesting. Don't center everything. If I put this pug directly in the center, it's not really a compelling shot. The rule of thirds has 1-2 guides here, 1-2 guides here, splitting it into thirds. If I drag up and to the right, you want the compelling or interesting part of the shot to land in a power point, so the pug's face close to where 2 guides intersect. This gives the eye a place to rest. I do love the sky in this shot, so I'm going to include a little bit extra, but I don't want the pug dead center. So I'm going to pull into the shadow a bit, and now the top of the pug's head is hitting close to that power point, the intersection of 2 guides. However, I may find these feet distracting, so I might decide to remove that as well. And if I really like the sky, maybe I aim for the pug's face to be in the lower quadrant, keeping that rule of thirds in mind. I think that's ultimately where I will land on this shot. And if a little bit extra sneaks in, I could use Photoshop's content-aware fill. But I can do 3 things to do the crop. I could click this check mark to say I'm all done and I want to commit to the current crop operation. I could double-click anywhere inside the crop area. Or if I'm a keyboard user, I could press my return key on the Mac or enter on Windows. And now I like the overall look and feel of this shot. I'm not distracted by the person standing over here. I've got gorgeous blue sky, and my eye has a nice place to fall or rest. Now let's take a look at a different shot. In this image, I love it. However, it was taken kind of crooked at an odd angle. I want to cut out a little bit of the sidewalk here, but not too much. So I'm going to pull up from the lower right the crop area. So I'm not on a corner, not on a middle, but anywhere outside shows me my rotate arrows. These bent little arrows will let me drag up and to the left, not the proper dimension. If the image is cocked a little bit to the right, I need to drag down in order to straighten it. And you'll see the visual preview showing me if I have it straight or not. Also, as I drag, this little rotation angle pops up. That's known as a rich cursor. And if you don't see a little rich cursor when you're holding and dragging, that may be because you don't have an accelerated video card. No worries, I find it handy to know that I rotated this minus 9.6 degrees. I also want to keep the little girl in a compelling area, so I may add a little extra image territory to get her closer to that PowerPoint. Good. And I think I'm happy with this. Although there's extra, no worries. We're going to use Photoshop's content-aware fill to get the message of this image across and compensate for what wasn't originally captured in the shot. I think I'll tighten it a hair on the right, and yours does not have to match mine. So once I'm happy, I will press Return or Enter. There is my new crop. Now, something else I want to point out before I do my content-aware fill. If I look at Black Pug, this is the cropped file size, 11.8 megabytes. The file size on the right is PSD or Photoshop document. The file size on the left is TIFF, the tagged image file format, uncompressed. I often use TIFF because it'll do a little compression, but not harm or permanently trash any image data. If I were to choose Edit Step Backward, before I did the crop, the file size was 14 megabytes. Even a little bit of cropping can make a big difference in file size. So I'll choose Edit Step Forward. And there's the crop that I want. I'll go back to my Valentine shot, and it is 16.2 megabytes right now. I'll choose Edit Step Backward, and originally it was 22.9, almost 23 megs. Edit Step Forward. So now I'll use my Quick Selection tool, and I'll select these two white parts by just clicking and dragging anywhere in the white center. In order to not get a seam, I'm going to do Select, Modify, and Expand. And I found the magic number that always works is 10 pixels. This creates a little overlap so you don't see a seam where Photoshop makes up new image data. So Edit, Fill, leave it on Content Aware, and click OK. And it made up new bushes. There's a little bit of schmutz here at the top that I could either clone out or paint out with the Spot Healing Brush tool. But I'm going to use my favorite mantra, let it go. The way I say it, it's one word. I realize it's 3 words, but I just say let it go. And I'll do select and deselect, and I want to stay on task for the topic of this lesson, which is the ways to crop. The last way to crop is an automated way. And you might say, Kelly, why didn't you show me that first? Well, I wanted you to see the way most people use, and then I wanted you to see the fast and easy way so you appreciate it. So looking at this image, it was placed crooked on a scanning bed. So I will choose File, Automate, Crop, and Straighten Photos. And boom, it's done. And just for fun, let's go to Image and Auto Color, and all the years are wiped away. I may also try Image Auto Tone, far better. And I could try Auto Contrast. It may be a little flat, not a huge difference. But if I take a look in my History panel and stretch it, here is what I started with before the color correction. Here is what I have now. Here is the original, and here is my end result. And if you use File, Automate, Crop and Straighten Photos, Photoshop does open up a new document because you may have 4 or 5 images on a scanning bed that it can perform this action on. So give the crop tool a try. There are far more options, but my goal was to show you how to pull in and crop and do cropping thoughtfully, and also how to save a step by cropping and straightening at the same time.